Hello everyone and welcome to lesson 1-1 and lesson 1-1. The first one is for the chapter and the second number is for the lesson. So this is chapter 1, lesson 1, which is called lesson 1-1. And our lesson will be today on rates. Now rate, you're probably wondering what a rate is. When you are on a car, you can measure the rate of speed. You might be driving 40 kilometers per hour. You can see there that I said two different numbers. I said kilometers and I said hours. Let's just see here. We're going to today to talk about rate and unit rate. Rate, again, we're talking about the comparison of two numbers like a ratio. I can eat 8 marshmallows per minute. So again, I'm comparing marshmallows to minute. That's a rate. Unit rate would be down to 1. So how long would it take me to eat 1 marshmallow? Okay, well, if I say 8 per minute, that would be considered a unit rate because the minute is at 1, right? But if I told you I eat 16 marshmallows in 2 minutes, then you can change that and try to find the unit rate. The unit rate would be down to 1 minute, which is 8. Okay, I don't want to get ahead of myself, so let's go ahead and take a look at the real world link and we will move on from here. So how do we use rate in the real world? Pulse rate. You can take a person's pulse by placing your middle and index finger on the underside of their wrist. Choose a partner and take their pulse in 2 minutes. Okay, so let's just say I am your partner and I am going to right now pause the video and take my own heart rate. Okay, so for the 1 minute, it says here to check your pulse for 2 minutes, right? Check the pulse for 2 minutes. So I did it for the 2 minutes, and in my 2 minutes, I got 84 beats. So I got 84 beats in 2 minutes, right? Per 2 minutes. So if I were to simplify that and find out what it is in 1 minute, you notice here that I cut the 2 minutes down to 1 minute. So I cut it in half. If I cut the bottom in half, I had to cut the top in half. Whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top of a fraction or a ratio. So if I cut the 84 in half, I get 42. 42. So I actually have 42 beats per minute. I'll take away that S there. So let's use this table to fill out the information. Use the results from exercise 1 to complete the bar diagram and determine the number of beats per minute for your partner. When we are determining the beats per minute, we are looking for the unit rate. We're looking for how many we can get in 1 minute. Unit means 1. So beats in 2 minutes, I got 84 beats. Okay, number of beats in 1 minute, that means if I have to cut this up, this entire thing right here, if I have to cut it in 2 equal parts, I would get 42 here and 42 here, right? So your partner's heartbeats per minute would be 42. Use the results from exercise 1. Sorry, I'm reading down here. Use the results from exercise 1 to determine the number of beats for half minute for your partner. Half a minute. So now I'm cutting this minute into another half. You see here? Now we're cutting it, this minute, into another half, which means I have to cut my 42 in half on both ends. And 42 cut in half is 21 and 21. Right? 21 and 21. So in half a minute, I get 21 beats every 30 seconds per 30 seconds. So boys and girls, as you can see, I have completed the first page. Now what I would like you to do is in your notebooks, you need to write down the title, right? You need to write down that we're working on rates. Please write down today's date as well. And if you feel that any of this was useful to you, please copy down what you feel will help you learn more about rates. If you feel that all of this was just good for watching and it helped you understand, but you don't feel the need to write it down, you do not have to. You only have to write down the examples that I complete, as you will see in the following page. So for example, in this page, you can see that at the very top, I will begin by explaining the main concept, okay, and the vocabulary of rate and unit rates. But as we get to the bottom, we start to get to examples. And we are given one example for us to see how to do it, and then we have to complete A and B, these two examples. These are the examples right here that you must copy and complete in your notebooks. So let's go back to the top. So for our main concept today, we're going to look at rate and unit rate. A ratio that compares two quantities with different kinds of units is called a rate. So two quantities with different kinds of units. For example, kilometers per hour. You drive to school on the expressway at 100 kilometers per hour. 100 kilometers per hour. That's a ratio. You see, this little line here is writing it as a fraction, right? It's saying that every 1 hour you're gonna drive 100 kilometers. That's a rate. You can buy 5 tomatoes for $2. So again, now we're talking about the number of tomatoes, different units, $2. When you found each other's pulses, you were actually finding the heart rate. We were doing beats, the number of heartbeats per minute. Again, two different numbers comparing two quantities with different units. When a rate is simplified so that it has a denominator of 1, so a single one, it is called a unit rate. So here we have 160 beats per 2 minutes. If I wanted to turn this into 1, meaning I have to cut it in half, I have to cut the top in half as well. And when I do so, 2 cut in half is 1. And 160 cut in half is 80. So I actually have 80 beats per minute. This would be considered the unit rate because my denominator, my bottom number, is 1. The denominator is 1 unit. So here's our first example. For these examples, in the future, I really want you to look at the examples on your own, pause the video, read through them on your own, read the steps on how it's done. Because if we go through every example myself, it's going to make the videos way too long for you. So right now, actually pause the video and read through the word problem. Okay, I hope you read through the word problem. And you can see that in the word problem, they had Adrian biked 24 miles in 4 hours. In 4 hours. If we want to know how much she biked in 1 hour, right? So this would be divided by 4, so it's 1, down to 1. And this would be divided by 4, so it's down to 6. And you can see that it's 6 miles per hour. Let's do A and B. Find each unit rate. So we're going to find it down to 1. Round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. So the first one, we have $300 for 6 hours. You went to work and you made $300 in 6 hours. Okay? If we wanted to bring it down to the unit rate, to the 1, we have to put the 1 in the denominator. How much are you making per hour? Well, I took the 6 down to 1. That means 6, I divided it by 6, right? 6 divided by 6 is 1. So I brought it down to the 1. So I have to do the same thing to the 300. So we have 300 divided by 6, it's 50. Correct? So what is our unit rate? $50 per hour, right? Over here it would be $50 per hour, H for hour. Question B. 220 miles on 8 gallons. So with 8 gallons of gasoline, you can drive 220 miles. How much can you drive with 1 gallon of gasoline? So again, I brought it down to the unit, which means I brought it down to this 8 is the equivalent to 1. So I have to divide this. I divided this 8 by 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1. So I'm going to divide 220 divided by 8. I can't just do that on the top of my head, so I'm actually going to do the math right here. 220 divided by 8. How many 8s are into 22? 2 of them, which makes 16, correct? And I subtract, and I get 6. I bring down the 0, right? And how many 8s are in 60? 8 times 7 is 56, right? 8 times 7 is 56, right? And I subtract and I get 4, because 60 minus 56 is 4. I put a decimal there, because the number is done, right? That's where my number is. And now I bring down another 0, and I have 40. 8 into 40 is 5. Okay? So, there is my answer. You see, 40, 0. So my answer is 27.5. Right? 27.5. That's how many miles I'm going to drive on 1 gallon of gasoline. So 27.5 miles, 27.5, 27 per gallon of gasoline. Example 2. Find the unit price. The unit price means the price per each item, for every one. Find the unit price if it costs $2 for 8 juice boxes. So $2. So really what I'm going to do is I want to find out the price of each juice box, so I have to divide it by the number of juice boxes. So this time then the amount of money goes on the top, because I'm looking for the unit price. How much is each one? So I take my money and I'm going to divide it by the number of items. You see that? So I have the 2 divided by 8. So each juice box costs 25 cents. Right? If I'm only paying $2 for 8 of them. And it makes sense, because each dollar has 4 quarters. And 4 plus 4 is 8 to make $2. Let's try C. Find the unit price if a 4-pack of mixed fruit sells for $2.12. Again, now we have $2.12, and we want to know how much each one is. So essentially, we're going to divide 2.12 divided by 4, right? And 4 into 2 is 0 times. I put the decimal there. And 4 into 21 is 4 times 5 is 20. Subtract. I bring down the 1. 21 minus 20 is 1. Bring down the 2 right there. And that's 12. 4 times 3 is 12. And there we go. So I see that I have 53 cents. So if I were to bring this down to a unit, 1 pack of mixed fruit sells for 53 cents. And as we mentioned before, when you have a word question, you have to answer it with words. So therefore, each pack sells for 53 cents. Make sure you're writing down all these examples, the ones we are completing together. These are the examples I really want you to pay attention to and keep track of, because these are the examples we will be doing together in class. Having the ability to identify unit rates, or the cost per each item, is really a great skill to know when comparing prices. For example, dog food prices. Here you can buy a 40-pound bag for $49, or a 20-pound bag for $23, or an 8-pound bag for $9.88. If we wanted to know which one is the cheapest, we would find the price of a pound, correct? How much is it for 1 pound at this rate? How much is it for 1 pound at this rate? And so on, right? So you can see here, the 40-pound bag is $49 divided by 40, because we want to know, we want to divide it by 40 so we can know the price of 1 pound, right? It's $1.23 per pound. 20-pound bag divided by, $23 divided by 20 pounds. You see, $23.44 divided by 20 pounds, $1.17. And the 8-pound bag, we take the price and we divide it by the number of pounds, and we get $1.24. So which one's the cheapest? Clearly, not by much, but clearly, we can see that the 20-pound bag is the better deal. You go and you pay $23.44 for 20 pounds, and each pound is going to cost you $1.17. Let's try this one. Tito wants to buy some peanut butter to donate to the local food pantry. Tito wants to buy as much peanut butter as possible. Which brand should he buy? So we have Nutty, Grandma's, Bees, Save-A-Lot. And we see how many ounces you get in each one and the price, correct? So here you get 12 ounces at $2.19. So if you want to know how much is each ounce, you take $2.19 and divide it by 12, so that you know how much is each ounce, Okay, so how much each of these ounces is worth in terms of money. And you do that for each one, right? So what we want to do is, it should look like this. We write down nutty, and we write down $2.19 divided by 12. Okay, as a fraction, the 219 would be our numerator, and our 12 would be our denominator. And we go ahead and solve for it. So how many 12s are in 2? None. So we put our decimal there. How many 12s in 21? 1. We put our 12 there. And 21 minus 12 is 9. Right? We can borrow and carry, where over here we have to borrow. Okay, we take the 1 and borrow from the 2, and that becomes 11. So this number becomes 11. And this one becomes 1. And it's 11 minus 2 is 9. Right? And then 1 minus 1 is 0. And we bring that other 9 down. Right? How many 12s are in 99? Well, 12 times 9 is 108, but 12 times 8 is 96. 12 times 8 is 96. And I have a remainder of 3. Right? So it's about 18 cents. You see right here? 18 cents. With a remainder of 3, but that remainder of 3, we don't have to worry about it because it's in the thousands, and it's no longer the money that we need to. It's not enough to change this value. So, at 18 cents, you would have to do that for each one. So now we're going to do the same thing for grandmas, B's, and save a lot. If you want, you can pause the video now. You try it, and then play the video to watch the rest and see if you did it correctly. Pause now. Let's solve for grandmas. Now we have 279 divided by 18. 18 into 2 is none. 18 into 27 is 1. And we have our 18 here. Okay, that makes it 9, right? 9 right here. When we subtract, bring down the other 9. And 18 into 99, I would multiply it by 5. So 18 times 5 is 90, right? And I have another 9 left. And now I have to bring down a 0, and again it's another 5. 18 times 5 again. So it's 15 cents and 5 in a thousandth. If we want, we can round that up to 16 cents. Okay, that would round that up to 16 cents. So we can see already that grandma's is cheaper than nutty. For the sake of time, I will not show my work for B's and Save a Lot. I will simply put my answers, and you can compare it to your answers. If you have any questions regarding these answers, please ask in class. For B's, after my calculation, I got 0.1675, which would round to 0.17, so 17 cents. And for Save a Lot, I got exactly 15 cents. So clearly, Save a Lot would be our cheapest option. And because this is a word question, word problem, we answer it with words. Therefore, the 3 little dots, he should buy Save a Lot. That's the question. Which brand should he buy? He should buy Save a Lot. Example 4. Okay. Please feel free to pause the video now and read through the example before I go through it. Okay, you can pause now. Alright, so the video, Lexi painted 2 faces, the example, Lexi painted 2 faces in 8 minutes at the crafts fair. 2 faces in 8 minutes. That sounds to me like 1 face in 4 minutes. You cut them both in half, right? At this rate, how many faces can she paint in 40 minutes? So if she does, well, you can do this mentally, right? If you were to summarize this, let me just zoom in before we go ahead and look through it all together. If you were to make this 1 phase into the unit rate, you cut that in half, you must cut the 8 in half to 4. So that's how much they can do in how many minutes, how many phases can be done in 4 minutes. So how many can you do in 40 minutes? Well, if that gets multiplied times 10, you get your 40 minutes, correct? You have to do the same for this one. So it looks to me like 10 faces could be painted. Let's check our answer. we can see in the example that we're being taught two different ways to do this. The method 1 uses a bar. Okay, we use a bar diagram where we take our time in 8 minutes, right? We take our time in 8 minutes, and in that 8 minutes we painted one face and we painted another face. But then if we break that time in half exactly, you'll see that one face takes 4 minutes to paint. Okay, what did we solve here? That's right. That's what we figured out at the top. That's our unit rate right here. That's our unit rate. That one face takes 4 minutes. That means 10 faces would take 40 minutes if we just do the math. It takes 4 minutes to paint one face. In 40 minutes, Lexi can paint 40 divided by 4. 40 means 40 minutes divided by 4 minutes, which we're dividing the number of minutes because we know that in 4 minutes one face could be painted, right? So how many of these are in this? 10. So it's 10 faces. That would be the one way to do it. Method 2, to find the unit, we take 2 faces in 8 minutes. So we do our division. We have 2 faces, and here's our ratio, 2 over 8. Right? And when we simplify it, okay, we get 0.25 in 1 minute. So we paint a quarter of a face in a minute. But then to pay, you know that there's 4 quarters in a whole, right? So we would have to multiply this by 4 and this by 4. So it would be 1 out of 4. So multiply the unit rate by 40 minutes. This is our unit rate, so we're going to change this to 40 minutes, the bottom to 40. And in order to get this 40, we have to multiply this by 40. And we multiply this by 40. And you can see here that when multiplied by 40, right, we get 10. 0.25 times 40 is 10. If that felt confusing to you, don't worry, we will look at that further in class. It's really just to give you an idea of what we will be learning in class. This is our guided practice, and this is how we'll begin our warm-up when you get to class. But please take a look at it now and see, read through it, make sure that you understand it. And if for some reason you don't understand how to do this question, that means you have to go back to examples 1 to 3. If you can't do this question right here, take a look at example 2, and so on. All right, everybody. See you in class.